The sound of breaking glass shattered the early morning peace at Riverside Park as Zane Grayson lunged forward, watching in horror as a woman collapsed onto the jogging path just 50 feet ahead of him. He had been enjoying a rare moment of solitude, his 5-year-old daughter safely at school, when what had started as a routine morning took a dramatic turn. The woman dressed in expensive running gear that marked her as someone from the wealthy side of town had stumbled, clutched her chest, and crumpled to the ground before Zane could even process what was happening. "Madam, can you hear me?" Zane called out as he sprinted toward her, his worn sneakers pounding against the pavement. No response. The woman lay motionless, her blonde hair fanned out around her head like a halo against the concrete. Without hesitation, Zane dropped to his knees beside her, checking for breathing, a pulse, any sign of life, nothing. Adrenaline surged through his body as years of first aid training from his construction days kicked in. "Someone call 911. He shouted to a startled elderly couple walking nearby. As the man fumbled for his phone, Zane positioned himself properly and began chest compressions, counting under his breath while silently praying that the ambulance would arrive quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4. The rhythm of CPR became his entire focus as sweat beaded on his forehead. 30 compressions, then 2 rescue breaths. He tilted her head back gently, pinched her nose, and sealed his mouth over hers to deliver life-saving air. "Come on," he muttered between cycles. "Stay with me." After what felt like hours but was likely only minutes, the woman gasped suddenly, her eyes flying open. They were startlingly blue, the color of a summer sky, and filled with confusion and fear. "You're okay," Zane reassured her, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "An ambulance is coming." Your heart stopped, I think." The wail of approaching sirens filled the air as the woman tried to speak, managing only a weak cough. Zane kept a reassuring hand on her shoulder, keeping her still. "My name's Zane," he said, offering what comfort he could. "What's yours?" Emma," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Emma Reeves." The paramedics arrived in a flurry of activity, quickly taking over. As they loaded Emma onto a stretcher, Zane stepped back, suddenly aware of the blood staining his jeans where he'd knelt on broken glass, and the fact that he was now running late for his shift at the warehouse. "Sir," one of the paramedics approached him. "You likely saved her life." "Good job with the CPR," Zane nodded, uncomfortable with the praise. "Anyone would have done the same." "Actually, most people freeze up or just film with their phones these days. You heading to the hospital with her?" Zane glanced at his watch and sighed. "I can't. I've got work in 30 minutes, and if I'm late again, I'll lose my job." The reality of his situation crashed back down on him. Single father, 2 jobs, mounting bills, and a daughter to provide for. "Will she be okay?" "She's stable now, thanks to you. Presbyterian Hospital is where they're taking her if you want to check in later." Zane nodded, watching as the ambulance doors closed on Emma Reeves' pale face. For a moment, their eyes met through the window, and he felt an unexpected connection, one that lingered, as he jogged home to change before his shift. Later that evening, after picking up his daughter Lily from after-school care and preparing a simple dinner of macaroni and cheese, her favorite, Zane found himself thinking about the woman in the park. The image of her blue eyes, filled with confusion and fear, kept returning to his thoughts. "Daddy, you're not listening." Lily's voice pulled him back to the present. "Sorry, sweetheart. What were you saying about your science project?" Lily, with her dark curls and serious brown eyes so much like her late mother's, sighed dramatically. "I said, Miss Peterson thinks my volcano might win first place, but I need more red paint for the lava. Can we get some? Please?" Zane mentally calculated the balance in his checking account. Payday wasn't until Friday, and he'd already had to pay for an unexpected car repair last week. "We'll figure something out, Lil. Maybe we can make red by mixing colors we already have." Lily's face fell slightly, but she nodded. At 5 years old, she already understood more about financial constraints than any child should have to. "Okay, Daddy, we can try." After Lily was tucked into bed with a story and her favorite stuffed elephant, Zane collapsed onto the couch of their small 2-bedroom apartment. The place was modest but clean. though the rent consumed nearly half his monthly income. Since losing Rachel to cancer 3 years ago, he'd done everything possible to keep their little family afloat, often working double shifts at the warehouse and picking up weekend handyman jobs when available. He reached for his phone, hesitating before typing Emma Reeves into a search engine. To his surprise, dozens of results appeared immediately. The top link led to the website of Reeves Technology Solutions, where Emma Reeves was listed as Chief Executive Officer. The professional headshot showed the same woman whose life he'd saved that morning, though in the photo she looked polished and commanding rather than vulnerable. A CEO, Zane murmured to himself, suddenly feeling even more disconnected from her world. He clicked through a few articles, learning that at 34, Emma was one of the youngest female CEOs in the tech industry, having transformed her father's struggling computer repair shop into a major technology solutions provider for healthcare systems across the country. Zane closed the browser, feeling oddly intrusive. What had happened to her was a random accident. Cardiac events could strike anyone, regardless of wealth or status. He'd done what anyone should do in that situation, and now their brief intersection was over. Their worlds were simply too different to ever meaningfully overlap again. 3 days later, Zane had almost forgotten about the incident, focused instead on Lily's upcoming school presentation and the possibility of picking up extra weekend work to cover the cost of new shoes she desperately needed. He was stacking boxes in the warehouse when his supervisor called him to the office. "There's someone here to see you," Mike said, looking unusually impressed. "Says it's important." Confused, Zane followed him to the front entrance, where he stopped short at the sight of Emma Reeves. She stood confidently in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent, her blonde hair swept into an elegant updo. Yet despite her polished appearance, there was a softness to her expression as their eyes met. "Mr. Grayson," she said, stepping forward with an extended hand. "I hope you don't mind me tracking you down." Zane shook her hand, acutely aware of his work uniform and the dust covering his arms. "It's just Zane, and no, I'm just surprised. I wanted to thank you personally." Her voice was warm but professional. "The doctors told me if you hadn't performed CPR when you did, I wouldn't have survived until the paramedics arrived." "I'm glad you're okay," Zane replied honestly. "How did you find me?" A slight smile touched her lips. "I have resources. The hospital had your name from the paramedics' report, and I wanted to express my gratitude properly." From her designer handbag, she produced an envelope and handed it to him. "Please accept this as a token of my appreciation." Zane took the envelope but didn't open it. "That's really not necessary. I just did what anyone would do." But not everyone would have known how to do it correctly or been brave enough to try. Emma's blue eyes held his steadily. "You saved my life, Mr. Grayson Zane. Please let me thank you." Feeling his supervisor's curious gaze, Zane reluctantly pocketed the envelope. "I appreciate it, and I'm really glad you're recovering well." "Actually," Emma continued, "I was hoping you might join me for dinner this evening. Nothing formal, just a proper chance to thank you." The invitation caught Zane completely off guard. I have my daughter tonight," he replied, the words coming out more abruptly than intended. "Your daughter is welcome too, of course," Emma said smoothly. "I should have specified. Does she like Italian food?" "There's a lovely casual place near Riverside Park." Zane hesitated, torn between the inherent awkwardness of the situation and not wanting to seem ungrateful. "She's 5, so her culinary preferences mainly revolve around chicken nuggets and anything with cheese." Emma laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her face. "Perfect. I know just the place. 6 o'clock. I can send a car or meet you there if you prefer." "We'll meet you there," Zane said quickly, unwilling to have Emma see their modest apartment building. He gave a small nod. "Text me the address." After exchanging phone numbers, Emma left with a graceful wave, leaving Zane standing in the warehouse entrance, still processing what had happened. "Friend of yours?" Mike asked with raised eyebrows. "Not exactly," Zane replied, returning to work with the unopened envelope burning a hole in his pocket. Later that evening, after explaining to Lily that they were having dinner with a lady daddy helped at the park, Zane finally opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $25,000 and a handwritten note thanking him for his heroic intervention. He stared at the amount, his hands trembling slightly. It was enough to pay off most of his remaining medical debt from Rachel's treatments, with some left over to start a proper college fund for Lily. His first instinct was to tear it up. Zane had always prided himself on self-sufficiency, on making his own way despite the hardships life had thrown at him. But then he thought of Lily, of the opportunities this money could provide for her, and his resolve wavered. The restaurant Emma had chosen was upscale, but welcoming, with checkered tablecloths and cheerful Italian music playing softly in the background. She was already seated at a corner table when they arrived, having traded her business suit for a simple blue dress that made her eyes seem even more striking. "You must be Lily," Emma said, smiling warmly at the little girl who half hid behind Zane's leg. "I love your elephant beret." "Purple is my favorite color too." Lily peered up at her, curiosity gradually replacing shyness. "Daddy says you got sick and he helped you." "He did," Emma confirmed as they sat down. "Your daddy is a hero." Zane felt a flush creep up his neck. "I'm no hero, just happened to be in the right place." Emma's eyes met his across the table. "Modesty becomes you, but what you did was extraordinary. The doctors diagnosed me with a congenital heart condition I never knew I had. Without immediate CPR, I wouldn't have survived." Before Zane could respond, a waiter appeared with a special menu for Lily featuring illustrated pasta dishes, and to her delight, various forms of mac and cheese. Throughout dinner, Zane found himself repeatedly surprised by Emma. Despite her obvious wealth and status, she spoke to Lily with genuine interest, asking about her school projects and favorite books without a hint of condescension. With Lily happily occupied with her mac and cheese and the coloring sheet the restaurant had provided, Zane finally addressed the check. "I can't accept this," he said quietly, sliding the envelope across the table. "It's incredibly generous, but your pride won't allow it." Emma finished, her expression gentle but challenging. "Is pride worth more than what that money could do for your daughter?" The direct question caught him off guard. "It's not about pride," he began, then faltered. "Okay, maybe partly. But mainly, it feels wrong to take money for doing what any decent person would do." "Consider it this way," Emma said, leaning forward slightly. "My company makes charitable donations every year to causes we believe in. Why not consider this a personal investment in a family I believe deserves support? No strings attached, no expectations. Just one human being helping another." Zane studied her face, searching for any sign of pity or condescension, but found only sincerity. "Why are you really doing this?" he asked finally. Emma was quiet for a moment, absently twirling her water glass. "When I was on that jogging path, having what I now know was a cardiac episode, I had a moment of perfect clarity. Despite all my professional achievements, all the wealth I've accumulated, I realized I've been living a strangely isolated life. My father died last year, I have no siblings, and I've been so focused on the company that personal relationships fell by the wayside." She met his gaze directly. "Then a stranger risked his own safety to help me, expected nothing in return, and reminded me what actually matters in life." Her vulnerability disarmed him completely. Before Zane could respond, Lily tugged at his sleeve, proudly displaying her completed coloring sheet, a detailed image of the Leaning Tower of Pisa now adorned in purple and green. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," he said automatically, though his thoughts remained on Emma's words. "Can Emma have it?" Lily asked unexpectedly. Emma's face lit up. "I would be honored. It's been years since anyone gave me artwork for my refrigerator." As Lily carefully handed over her masterpiece, Zane made a decision. "I'll accept the check," he said quietly, "but only if you'll let me volunteer at one of your company's charitable events or something. I want to earn it somehow." Emma considered this, then nodded. "I believe I can arrange something suitable. Though I was hoping you might agree to see me again regardless." The statement hung between them, its implications clear. Zane felt an unexpected flutter in his chest that had nothing to do with gratitude and everything to do with the genuine warmth in Emma's blue eyes. "I'd like that," he admitted, surprising himself with his honesty. The following weeks brought changes Zane could never have anticipated. The check went into a separate account, most earmarked for Lily's future education, but some used to finally replace the apartment's ancient refrigerator and buy Lily the new shoes she needed. True to his word, he volunteered at a technology workshop Emma's company sponsored for underprivileged teens, where his practical knowledge of basic electronics from his construction days proved unexpectedly valuable. More significantly, Emma became a regular presence in their lives. It began with casual dinners, then expanded to weekend outings to museums and parks. Zane initially worried about the disparity in their lifestyles, but Emma seemed genuinely content with simple pleasures playing board games with Lily, helping with her science project, or just sharing takeout at their small kitchen table. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, they sat on Zane's worn sofa sharing a bottle of wine, the remnants of a movie night scattered around them. "Can I ask you something personal?" Emma ventured, her voice soft in the dim light. Zane nodded, already comfortable enough with her to welcome even difficult questions. "Lily mentioned her mother is in heaven. What happened, if you don't mind me asking?" Zane took a deep breath, the familiar ache in his chest present but less sharp than it once had been. "Rachel was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer when Lily was just turning 2. We fought it hard for almost a year, but..." He shrugged, the simple gesture conveying the devastating outcome. "She made me promise to give Lily a happy life no matter what." Some days I wonder if I'm keeping that promise. Emma reached for his hand, her fingers warm against his. "From what I can see, you're doing an extraordinary job. Lily is happy, secure, and loved. That's what matters most." "Some days are harder than others," Zane admitted. "The practical stuff, bills, logistics, working enough hours without missing important moments in her life, it can be overwhelming." "You don't have to do it alone, you know," Emma said quietly, her eyes meeting his. The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken possibilities. Slowly, Zane leaned forward, giving her time to pull away if he'd misread the situation. Instead, Emma closed the distance, her lips meeting his in a kiss that began tentatively but quickly deepened with shared longing. When they finally parted, Zane felt slightly dazed. "I wasn't sure if..." "I mean, you're you and I'm..." "Stop," Emma interrupted, placing her fingers gently against his lips. "I'm just a woman who's falling for a kind, courageous man who happens to be an amazing father. The rest is just circumstance." Despite her reassurance, practical realities couldn't be entirely ignored. As their relationship deepened over the following months, Zane remained acutely aware of the differences in their worlds. Emma's penthouse apartment in the city's most exclusive high-rise was a stark contrast to his modest two-bedroom. Her casual mentions of board meetings and international business trips highlighted how different their daily lives were. Yet Emma seemed genuinely happier participating in their simpler routines, helping Lily with homework, joining them for movie nights, even attending parent-teacher conferences when Zane couldn't get time off work. And Lily, initially shy around Emma, now greeted her with enthusiastic hugs and endless stories about school adventures. 6 months after their first dinner, Zane found himself facing an unexpected opportunity. Emma's company needed someone to oversee a new training program for maintenance technicians at their expanded headquarters. The position offered significantly better pay than his warehouse job, along with regular hours that would allow more time with Lily. "I thought of you immediately," Emma explained as they walked through the park where they'd first met, their breath visible in the crisp autumn air. "Your experience in construction and electronics maintenance makes you qualified, and your ability to explain complex concepts simply is exactly what we need." Zane stopped walking, turning to face her. "Emma, did you create this position for me?" She met his gaze steadily. "The position was already planned, but yes, I thought of you specifically because I know you'd be excellent at it. Is that wrong?" "I don't want charity," he said quietly. "And I don't want your employees thinking I got the job because I'm sleeping with the boss." Emma's eyes flashed with a mixture of hurt and indignation. First, it's not charity to recognize genuine talent and offer appropriate compensation. Second, our relationship has nothing to do with this professional opportunity. She stepped closer, her voice softening. But if you're uncomfortable, I understand. The offer stands either way. Zane ran a hand through his hair, conflicted. I need to think about it. Of course, Emma replied, though disappointment shadowed her features. That evening, after putting Lily to bed, Zane called his former construction foreman, now running his own company, for advice. Joe had always been straightforward, sometimes brutally so. Let me get this straight, Joe said after hearing the situation. A gorgeous, successful woman who adores both you and your kid wants to help you get a better job that you're actually qualified for, and you're hesitating because of pride. It's complicated, Zane protested. No, it's not. You're making it complicated. Listen, when Rachel got sick, did you refuse help from friends and family? That was different. Was it? Or did you accept help then because you knew it was ultimately better for Lily? Joe's voice softened. Look, man, I get it. Independence matters. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do is recognize a good opportunity and grab it with both hands. If you're qualified for the job, take it. If you love the woman, don't push her away because you're afraid of the differences between you. After hanging up, Zane sat in the quiet apartment, Joe's words echoing in his mind. On the refrigerator door, held by magnets shaped like elephants, a gift from Emma to Lily, was a photo of the three of them at the zoo, all laughing as a giraffe bent its long neck toward their viewing platform. Lily sat on Zane's shoulders while Emma stood close beside them, her hand casually resting on Zane's back. They looked like a family. The realization hit him with unexpected force. Somewhere along the way, Emma had become woven into the fabric of their lives, filling spaces Zane hadn't even realized were empty. Her presence brought lightness and possibilities he'd long ago stopped imagining for himself. The next morning, Zane called Emma and accepted the job offer with one condition: that he would report to someone other than her to avoid any conflict of interest. She agreed immediately, having already anticipated this request. 2 weeks later, Zane started his new position at Reeves Technology Solutions. The work challenged him in ways his warehouse job never had, utilizing both his practical skills and his untapped potential for leadership. More importantly, the regular hours meant he could pick Lily up from school most days and be fully present for her evenings and weekends. As Christmas approached, Emma surprised them with an invitation to join her at a mountain cabin for the holiday week. It belonged to my parents, she explained. We went every year when I was growing up, but I haven't been back since my father passed away. I'd love to share it with both of you. The cabin turned out to be a stunning 3-bedroom lodge overlooking a frozen lake with floor-to-ceiling windows and a massive stone fireplace. Yet despite its grandeur, it felt cozy and lived in, filled with family photos and well-worn board games. On Christmas Eve, after Lily had finally fallen asleep in breathless anticipation of Santa's arrival, Zane and Emma sat before the crackling fire, mugs of hot chocolate in hand. Thank you for bringing us here, Zane said, watching the firelight play across Emma's face. This has been the best Christmas Lily and I have had in years. Emma leaned against his shoulder contentedly. Having both of you here makes it feel like home again. I'd forgotten how much I missed that feeling of family. The word hung between them, weighted with significance. Zane set down his mug and turned to face her fully. I have something for you. It's not much, but… From his pocket, he withdrew a small, simply wrapped package. Emma opened it carefully to reveal a hand-carved wooden pendant on a silver chain. The wood had been polished to a warm glow, with delicate inlay work forming a heart surrounded by what appeared to be 3 interwoven circles. It's beautiful, Emma whispered, tracing the pattern with her fingertip. I made it from wood salvaged from an old oak at Riverside Park. They had to take it down last month after that big storm, Zane explained. It seemed fitting, since that's where we met. The 3 circles represent you, me, and Lily. Tears welled in Emma's eyes as she handed him the necklace, turning so he could fasten it around her neck. When she faced him again, her expression was both tender and resolute. "I love you, Zane Grayson," she said simply. The words, spoken aloud for the first time between them, filled the space with a quiet power. Zane cupped her face gently between his hands. "I love you too, and that terrifies me sometimes." "Why?" she asked, covering his hands with her own. "Because for so long, it was just Lily and me against the world. Opening our lives to you means risking heartbreak again, and the differences between us are just circumstances," Emma finished firmly. "What matters is what we've built together. A relationship based on respect, honesty, and genuine love." She took a deep breath as if gathering courage. "Which is why I wanted to ask you something important." Reaching into the pocket of her cardigan, Emma withdrew a small velvet box. Zane's heart skipped a beat as she opened it to reveal a simple but elegant platinum band. "I'm not proposing exactly," she clarified quickly, seeing his expression. "Not yet. But I wanted to give you this as a promise ring, a symbol that I'm committed to our future together, whatever form that takes, however much time you need." Zane stared at the ring, emotions welling up so intensely he couldn't immediately speak. Finally, he gently closed the box and pressed it back into her hand. Emma's face fell, but before disappointment could fully form, Zane pulled her to her feet. "Wait here," he said softly, disappearing briefly into the guest bedroom where he was staying. When he returned, he was holding a small wooden box of his own hand carved like the pendant, with the same 3 interwoven circles on its lid. Kneeling before her, Zane opened the box to reveal a delicate ring with a modest but brilliant diamond set in white gold. "I've been carrying this around for weeks, waiting for the right moment. I guess great minds think alike." Emma's hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling freely now. "Emma Reeves, you came into our lives unexpectedly, but now I can't imagine a future without you in it. You've shown me that love can be found in the most unlikely circumstances, and that opening our hearts to new possibilities doesn't diminish what came before." He took a steadying breath. "Will you marry me and let me spend the rest of my life showing you how much you mean to both of us?" "Yes," Emma whispered through happy tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, a small voice came from the staircase. "Are you going to be my mom now?" They turned to find Lily standing there in her Christmas pajamas, clutching her stuffed elephant and watching them with wide, hopeful eyes. Emma extended her hand, inviting Lily to join them by the fire. "Only if you want me to be, sweetheart. I love your dad very much, and I love you too." Lily considered this solemnly for a moment before breaking into a gap-toothed smile. "I think my real mom would be happy. She told Daddy to find happiness again. I heard him tell Uncle Joe once." Zane gathered both of them into his arms, his heart full to bursting. "She absolutely would be happy, Lil." The following spring, they married in a simple ceremony at Riverside Park, near the very spot where Zane had performed CPR on Emma 1 year earlier. Lily served proudly as flower girl, scattering rose petals with dramatic flair before taking her place beside Emma at the altar. Their vows, written by each of them, spoke of second chances, unexpected blessings, and the courage it takes to open one's heart after loss. There wasn't a dry eye among their guests, as Zane spoke of finding love when he least expected it, and Emma described how a moment of crisis had led to her greatest happiness. Life settled into a new rhythm after their honeymoon. They moved into a comfortable house halfway between the city and Zane's previous neighborhood, finding a middle ground that honored both their pasts while building something new together. Emma continued leading her company with the same dedication, but with a newfound balance that prioritized family time. Zane thrived in his role at RTS, eventually developing an apprenticeship program that provided career opportunities for people without traditional educational backgrounds. 2 years after their wedding, their family expanded with the birth of twins, a boy and a girl whom Lily, now 8, took to her role as big sister with enthusiastic responsibility. Their home buzzed with the chaos and joy that comes with a blended family finding its way together. On the 5th anniversary of their first meeting, Zane and Emma returned to Riverside Park for a morning jog, a tradition they'd established to commemorate the day that had changed both their lives. As they approached the spot where Emma had collapsed years before, they slowed to a walk, fingers intertwined. Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if I hadn't been running late that day? Emma mused, leaning comfortably against his shoulder. Zane considered the question. I try not to dwell on what-ifs, but I do think about how many things had to align perfectly for us to meet. If I hadn't been laid off from construction and taken the warehouse job with different hours, if you hadn't decided to change your running route that week. If you hadn't known CPR, Emma added softly. It makes you wonder how many moments like that we miss everyday chances to connect, to help someone, to change a life. Emma stopped walking and turned to face him fully, her blue eyes as captivating to him now as they had been the first time he'd seen them flutter open on this very path. That's why I started the foundation, you know, to make sure more people learn CPR and basic life-saving skills. So more stories can have endings like ours. The Reeves Grayson Emergency Response Education Foundation had become one of the largest providers of free first aid training in the state, with plans to expand nationally the following year. I'm proud of you, Zane said simply, drawing her close. Of what we've built together. Who would have thought, Emma murmured against his chest, that my heart stopping would be the beginning of something so beautiful. Zane smiled, thinking of their 3 children waiting at home with the babysitter, of the life they'd created together that bridged their once separate worlds. I think that's the thing about life, sometimes the most important moments happen when we least expect them. We just have to be brave enough to recognize them when they come. As they continued their jog through the morning dappled park, Zane reflected on how a single act of courage had set in motion a chain of events neither of them could have predicted. A CEO and a struggling single dad, brought together by crisis, united by love, and now building a future stronger than either could have created alone.